What's up, guys? Brady Briggs here. I know it's a little bit late, but I want to do a recap to UFC 261, considering how incredible of a card it was. No, I'm going to start out with the second preliminary bout between Carl Robertson and Brennan Allen. Now, I said this leading up to this fight. I said it in my preview on Saturday that I really wish they would give Robertson a striker, and I stand by that claim. They really should give him a strike like Brendan Allen. Like it's not normal people get ankle locked or Achilles locked in MMA. Okay, all you have to do is roll. It's not a hard submission to defend. You know, it's like the easiest leg lock to defend. It's like when Michael Johnson fought Thiago Moises. He was beating Thiago's ass in that first round, and then that second round, Thiago drops for his leg, and he just didn't know how to defend it. Like he's just not as good on the ground. And I think anyone with half a brain that uses half of that half of their brain realizes that's what was going to happen in this fight. I didn't think he was going to get leg locked, but I was almost certain he was going to get taken down, pounded out, or submitted. Um, I really hope that they don't cut Carl Robertson. Like he's only lost to four really good fighters, like Cesar Fajea and when he was only 7-0, I think, or 6-0 maybe. Glover Teixeira, who he almost knocked out. Marvin Vittori, who's a top four, top five middleweight, and now Brennan Allen, who's one of the brighter prospects in the sport today. All four of those losses are, excuse me, all four of those losses are submissions, but he's a good fighter, man. I mean, just match him up with a striker for once, dude. Please. Like, he's a great kickboxer. Like, he's shown it before. Dude, when he was 4-0, he KO'd Ryan Spann to get into the UFC. Like, the dude has got some skill. Like, give him a striker. And Brennan Allen, he's only lost to good fighters himself. So, I mean, he's got a very bright future ahead of him. Dwight Grant looked good against Sekulic in the next fight. Stefan Sekulic, he looked really good too. It's very arguable who won this fight. I'm glad Grant won because if he lost, he would be on a 2-fight losing streak. I don't know if he would come back. He's like 36 or 37. I really like watching him fight. Again, I'm very, very upset that they didn't end up rescheduling his fight with Li Jingliang. They're the same fighter with different frames. You know, they both crack. They both hit hard as shit. I'd say Jingliang's got the slight advantage in power, but Grant is longer. That's why I say they're the same fighter with different frames. They're both boxers that throw loopy, like, hard-ass punches. Man, that would have been a great fight. UFC, please reschedule that. And you know what? Reschedule Robertson versus Dalji Alongiambula, too, like, was supposed to happen in December, because that was a really wicked fight, too. Like, they actually did match him up with a striker, and it didn't end up happening. Randy Brown, man, this kid is good. This kid's really good. Like, when he came to the UFC, it was very obvious that he had a lot of potential. You know, with his frame and being Jamaican, obviously he's a really good athlete. Dude, his boxing, especially for being a really long guy with his legs, especially, like he's got good kicks too. But man, his hands are solid, and he's learned how to pivot his feet the right ways to where he hits hard. Like he cracked Alex Oliveira with I think it was an overhand, a really hard overhand, and dropped him. Then he ends up submitting him with a rear naked choke with one arm. He has his arm around him as he's taking his back, as he's getting his hooks in. And then once they hit the mat, he doesn't even lock his hand up. And Alex Oliveira taps. It was gorgeous. I don't think I've ever seen that happen in MMA. I've seen it happen in jiu-jitsu, a number of times. I don't think I've ever seen that happen in MMA, though. That was incredibly impressive. Now the first main card fight. This one was very disappointing, but it was a very good fight while it lasted. Anthony Smith versus Jimmy Crute. Smith was picking him apart. Man, he was looking like Anthony Smith 2.0. I know he might have 16 losses. Dude, don't say a lot about him. He took a lot of fights when he wasn't supposed to. A lot of those losses came earlier in his career. You know, he started out his career 18-11. So that means he's gone, what? 17-5 in his last 22. And most of those are against really good fighters, especially since he went up to 205. Yeah, dude, he looked great. I was very upset that the fight was stopped. I can understand why it was, but I don't think it should have been. And here's why. And I heard Josh Thompson and John McCarthy talk about this last night. And Josh was more on the side that I'm thinking. And McCarthy's like, John, you don't know what you're talking about. You're not listening. Like, you don't have a medical degree. And it's like, okay, I understand all that. And I understand why I was stopped, like I just said. But I don't think it should have been because Crute was losing the fight up until that point. He was getting picked apart. And then the leg kick lands and it kills the nerve in his leg. After that, Crute may have still lost round one, but he won the rest of the round with his wrestling. He secured two takedowns. Two takedowns after that. He didn't secure them before that happened. He's getting his ass beat. But after he got injured and needed some urgency, he was winning the rest of the round. He may have been able to do that in the second round. And his nerve may have come back within that time. But Smith is like the most experienced light heavyweight in the world, just about. And Crute is a true prodigy. This was only his 14th fight, and it's a great learning experience for him. It's kind of like when Michael Chiesa fought Joe Lozon. Like, it was such a great, that was like back to 2012 or 2013 or something. That was a long time ago. But it was a great fight while it lasted, and Chiesa was getting, I mean, I don't know, man. It was very back and forth, but I thought Chiesa was just barely edging it, and he got cut, and it was stopped. You know, it's kind of like that. It's one of those situations where it just gets taken away from him. It's unfortunate, but it's a good learning experience for an inexperienced young fighter. Chris Weidman and Uriah Hall. Jesus Christ, where do I even start with this? Jesus Christ. I still can't believe this happened. To Chris Weidman. I can believe that it happened. But to Chris Weidman, dude, like, this is the most ironic thing I think I've ever seen in my life, let alone in combat sports. Like, dude, it's happened before in MMA. It's happened before in kickboxing, especially. It's happened 3 times in MMA. Corey Hill did it. The dude that was on the Ultimate Fighter 5, the giant lightweight, that happened to him. It happened to Anderson Silva in 2013, the end of 2013. And now it happens to Chris Weidman in the beginning of 2021. Like, the way Weidman checked that kick of Silva when he was only 10-0, and he's a wrestler, an MMA grappler, and as a striker, he's primarily a boxer. He got that leg up to check Silva's kick, someone who'd been kickboxing his whole life. So that was incredibly impressive. But for that to happen to Chris, and man, Chris threw that leg kick hard as hell too. And he didn't even realize that it broke until he went to stand back on it. Dude, just gruesome, so gruesome. Man, I can't, like, how did that happen to him? How? Man, it's so crazy. And this was a rematch. Their first fight was, there's three title fights on this card. The next 3 after this one. And Chris Weidman's first fight with Uriah Hall was also for a title. It was for the ROC Ring of Combat middleweight title. Weidman went in with a record of 2-0. Hall went in with a record of 4-0. Weidman took his undefeated record. And Hall did say that should Weidman get well, he owes him this rematch. And something that I want to say about this, I don't think that Weidman is a classless man by any means. I do think that he has a good deal of class to him and a good deal of respect and morals to him. But I hear people saying that this is karma. And I'm like, just for the fact that he did this to somebody else, that's fucking stupid. But if anyone remembers when he did this to Silva, he ran around the ring and was happy that he won. He was literally celebrating that he did that to the biggest legend ever to that point. He was literally happy that he won the fight when that happened. I'm sure he wasn't happy that it happened like that, but he ran around the ring and was celebrating the entire time. Uriah Hall did not look that happy that that's how he won the fight on Saturday. It's like when Corey Sandhagen knocked out Frankie Edgar with that flying knee. He just starched him with it. He wasn't happy at all. He's like, dude, that's Frankie Edgar. Like, I'm not happy about that. I didn't want to do that to him. Weidman celebrated. Maybe it is karma. And by the way, Chris Weidman is an absolute legend. Anderson Silva is more of a legend than him by far. Uriah Hall crumbles under pressure. He really does. Something we didn't know until he came to the UFC. You know, on the Ultimate Fighter, he sure didn't show it, but he crumbles under pressure. And Weidman is one of the guys that could have given him that pressure. But now he's won 4 straight fights with 3 knockouts since losing to Paulo Costa, and he's doing pretty good, man. No, actually, this is the longest win streak in his UFC career. He's only won 3 straight so far here. That's pretty awesome. At 36 years old, took a lot longer than any of us anticipated. Valentina Shevchenko, man, I said it on Saturday. I've said it for like 3 or 4 years now, and I'm going to say it again. She has the best body lock trip in MMA. You know, I've heard quite a few people, and on these like bigger podcasts, like DC and Helwani and weighing in, like people saying that they didn't expect Valentina to just be able to out wrestle Andrade like that. And I'm like, how not? She does it to she literally takes every single one of her opponents down with that body lock trip. Every single one of them. Like, I can't say that enough. Every single one of them, she takes down with that body lock trick. And she doesn't have to try that many times. She always gets it on the first attempt. It's crazy how good she is at that. People don't realize she's a master of sports in judo. She's a black belt in judo. She doesn't only have a Taekwondo black belt and international master of sports in boxing and kickboxing. She's also an incredibly talented grappler. And now she's 21-3, avenged one of her losses. The only other 2 come to Amanda Nunes, which a lot of people think she avenged as well. And her win methods are 7, 7, and 7. 7 knockouts, 7 submissions, 7 decisions. You know, Khabib was like that. He had a very even win methods on his record. But who's going to beat her? Like, I know they already fought twice, but dude, just like, there's no one else for these 2 to fight. Like, Juliana Pena, like, I'm glad she's getting a title shot, but fuck, she needed another fight. Like, this is the only fight that makes sense for either of them. Like, even though Amanda's 2-0 against her, it's the only fight that makes sense for either of them. It's the only competitive fight either of them have. Like, now that Dana didn't feel like giving Cyborg a rematch against Amanda, you know, I don't believe that Cyborg didn't want that rematch, because Dana puts words in fighters' mouths a lot. He's done nothing but that to Robert Whittaker since he lost the belt, and he's done it to a lot of others too. But he puts words in fighters' mouths a lot. And Chris Cyborg, to that point, was the best ever. I guarantee you she wanted another shot. She ain't afraid of Amanda. Co-main event. Man, was this shocking. Rose Namajunas KOs Weili Zhang with a head kick. Now, going into this fight, I said to myself, it's going to play out on the feet, but Rose has the boxing advantage. Weili has the kickboxing advantage. And I was wrong. Weili is such a great kickboxer, but I forgot. Like, Rose has really turned into a high level, like a very high level MMA boxer at this point. And that made me forget all the kicks that she has, being a Taekwondo black belt since she was a kid. Like, that's what she always had when she first came to the UFC and on the Ultimate Fighter. She was so kick heavy. She's like Yair Rodriguez, kind of. She's so kick heavy. Another Taekwondo black belt. Actually fought a lot like him. And now that she's been boxing more in her fights, I kind of forgot about that. And it was a Taekwondo-like kick. It was a snappy-like head kick. It wasn't a wrong kick to the head. It was a snappy-like head kick that just caught Weili perfectly on the jaw. She didn't see coming. It was a beautiful performance by her. It's interesting to wonder what would be next for Weili, because coming off a fight of the year banger, like she just came off of against one of the best strawweights ever, to getting knocked out in the first round, man, I hope that these 2 fights don't change her. I really hope they don't. And it's kind of crazy that Rose only has 10 wins and she has 4 losses and she's a 3-time champ. 10-4 is not an impressive record. She is by far the best fighter with a non-impressive record, though. Like, since BJ Penn or Nick Diaz, or, you know, like, she's one of the best fighters since then that doesn't have a great record. And now, both times she won the belt over Joanna, and over Whaley, both times were first round knockouts, and they're the only knockouts she has on her record. And they're both over legends. One was over an undefeated numerous time kickboxing world champion, 27-3 pro kickboxer, 37-3 amateur kickboxer. She knocked out in the first round and then outstruck for 5 rounds in the rematch. And now Weili Zhang, who's 21-1, a 9-4 talent beating a 21-1 talent. Records don't mean shit. Now the main event, man, holy fuck. No, I think I know none of us expected this to happen. I didn't like when this fight was signed like 5 or 6 weeks ago. I was pretty upset about it. Now I'm glad it happened. It was Usman's 20th fight, and it was Masvidal's 50th fight, ironically enough. No, man, like Kamaru has really turned into a dangerous finisher. Like he really had, kind of like Henry Cejudo did before he left. Like before he left, like he would always win decisions, and then like leading up to his DJ fight, he became his second DJ fight. He started to become a finisher, and he finished 3 of his last 4 fights. No, that's how Usman is. He's finished 3 of his last 4 fights after winning almost all of his UFC fights by decision. There was only 2 in his first like 10 UFC fights or 9 UFC fights that were finishes. His Ultimate Fighter winning performance and his knockout of Sergio Moraes. No, he's finished 3 of his last 4. The one that he couldn't finish, he just KO'd. Someone who's never been KO'd. Like, yeah, he got TKO'd by a punch by Rodrigo Dam a long fucking time ago. He didn't get knocked on cut. Dude, that was a brutal knockout. Like, dude, he caught Jorge so flush. And you know what's really funny? Like, round 1 of this fight didn't look anything like round 1 of their first fight. I scored round 1 of their first fight for Jorge. I only watched it once. I know 2 of the judges scored all 5 rounds for Usman. One of them scored the first round for Jorge. I remember scoring the first round for Jorge. This first round of this second fight, he couldn't touch him. He couldn't do anything. Like, he literally couldn't touch him. Usman was trying to set up that right hand all night, too. Like, he wanted to starch Masvidal. He wanted to knock him out. And, man, he did it. Like, Kamaru Usman is special. You know, he's one of the very few guys that when I first saw him fight, I predicted him to become champion, and he actually did. I've actually thought about this pretty thoroughly since my last video, and there are 4 that I predicted to become champion. Usman, Khabib, Jose Aldo, and Peter Yan. Peter Yan became champion a lot quicker than I thought he would, but those are the only 4 that I actually predicted to become champion that would. I didn't even predict Jon Jones to become champion, stupidly enough. But dude, Kamaru Usman made his UFC debut in 2015 with a 5-1 record. 6 years later, he is now 19-1. Like, he's the one guy, like, people are saying that he's getting close to GSP level, or he is on the level of GSP, and I always hated that talk. But now, like, this Kamaru Usman versus a prime GSP, I don't know, man. I don't know how it would go. And I don't see anyone beating Kamaru. I thought Colby would beat Kamaru until Kamaru fought Burns. And then I was like, that fight ain't going to look anything like the first one either. Like, because Colby ain't going to keep it that competitive on the feet with him anymore. And if he does win, he's going to have to wrestle him. I don't think he can out-wrestle Kamaru. I don't think Kamaru can out-wrestle him either. But I don't think Colby can out-wrestle him. But he's the only guy in the division that actually has a chance to. He's the only guy in the division that actually could do it. And he's also the only guy in the division that can actually match his pace and his cardio. It's a very interesting matchup. You know, the only thing that sucks going into this fight, Dana said Colby's next for the winner. Usman has gone 3-0 since fighting Colby. Colby's only gone 1-0. Just like going into this fight, Usman had a fight where he finished Gilbert Burns, while Masvidal fought Usman twice in a row. See, it can go both ways like that too, though, because Daniel Cormier, after he knocked out Stipe Miocic, he fought Derek Lewis and then Stipe twice more. Stipe just fought DC 3 times in a row. So it could go either way. It's subjective. It's a very subjective sport. But yeah, what do y'all think of UFC 261? It's a pretty good card, right?